Hey everybody, welcome to the Mando Fan Show here in the Resistance Base. We're calling this episode 5. There's something familiar about this place, and the reason for that is Tatooine, but we'll talk more about that later. We're here to talk about Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian called The Gunslinger. Lacey is here with me, and joining us, a call in the subs, last second, in the clutch, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, Clayton Sandell. Welcome, Clayton, to the Mando Fan Show.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel on a Friday evening. Good to be back. How are you guys?
Good. Now, you didn't spend any more money on your production budget for your set back there, right? Since the last
No,
time?
we blew through that budget, so there's nothing left.
Capped.
I can't change. I can rearrange things and,
Right.
and maybe change the color of the lights, but that's about it.
All right. We'll wait till fiscal quarter one of 2020 to update the
Exactly.
the set there.
That is
But
correct.
thanks so much for rearranging stuff and joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so The Gunslinger. We are 5/8 through the season of The Mandalorian, and what we're going to do here first, as always, is rate the episode 0 to 10 on the Pedro Pascal face scale. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see the icon come up with the slots for Pedro Pascal's face, because that's the only time we're going to see it, I think, talking about The Mandalorian. But I'm going to start off and just give my rating, which is actually my lowest of this season. I gave this episode a 6.5 on the Pedro Pascal face scale. And I know I'm getting booed right now, I'm sure, out there. I'll try to give my reasons why in a little bit, but now we'll go to Lacey. What did you rate Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian?
So, I gave this an 8, which I believe I gave...
That's low for you.
But I also gave, I think, episode 4 an 8? It was something like that. And I remember I was talking to my husband today about it, and he was like, so did you like them equally? And I was like, no, I kind of like this one better. And he's like, then how can they be the same score? So we're winging it.
You're winging it.
It's an 8.
That's okay. Yeah. All right, Clayton, your first rating for the Mando Fan Show, Chapter 5, what did you give this one?
My first rating, I gave this 7.5 Pedros, and I was thinking if there was a comparison, episode 3 for me was the best so far, and that would have been 9.5 Pedros. So
All right.
just to give you an idea of where I fall on the scale.
Okay, so as a measure there, I like that, because
Yeah.
I believe Chapter 3 is my highest too, with like an 8.5. I haven't touched
Okay.
9 yet. I'm being very picky.
I
Okay,
gave it a 9.
Did you? Okay, there you go.
I have a feeling Taika Waititi is going to get me into the 9s with the final episode,
yeah.
but we'll see.
That should be cool.
All right, and then that averages us out to a 7.33. So 7 1/3 Pedro faces. There it is on the screen, I'm sure, because Lacey's very good at magically making things appear.
This side of the
right
nose.
there. Yeah, that side of the nose, 1/3 of Pedro's face. So Lacey, our patrons, what we do is we pitch it to them to give their scores, and you averaged out their score. Were they near us? What was their score for this chapter?
They were close to us, but surprisingly, a couple weeks ago, I think it was with episode 3, because everyone likes episode 3. We had like 12s and 11s and 21s.
Cheaters, yes.
Like crazy numbers out of 10.
Yeah. Too many faces.
This week, we had a ton of 5s, 6s, 7s, very low. But they came close to us with a 7.5.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's probably the closest we've been in line with the patron scores.
They're usually way above us, positivity-wise.
They're very positive people. Yes. Like your scores.
They're on the Lacey scale.
In the Lacey scale, yeah. Okay. Now, remember, guys, if you want to be featured on the show, just tweet out your reactions to each chapter using hashtag MandoFando. We'll find it, and we'll put you on the show just like this person did. That is Evan at HarrisEv9. How are you, Evan? Evan was a little critical. I'm not going to lie. He's a positive
He's always
positive
honest.
fella, usually. Yeah, he is honest.
I
That's true.
appreciate his honesty.
So Evan said, didn't enjoy this episode overall. Had its fun moments, and Fennec Shand was great, but the story and the characters weren't developed much. The tone felt off, and it was predictable yet again. For me, the 2 weakest episodes have come from Filoni. Yikes. Not like I don't know if Evan's maybe just not a Filoni guy. Maybe he doesn't like the animated series.
I loved the first episode, though.
I liked it too. Yeah. Yeah, Clayton, so were you a fan out of the gate chapter 1?
I was a fan, but it wasn't. I wasn't over the top. I think I would have given the first episode about a 7.
Okay.
But they got better as 2 and 3 went on for me. So yeah. It was a bit of, you kind of had to ramp up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, we'll get into that more in the discussion in a bit, I guess. But again, if you are a patron of the Resistance broadcast, you can get the highway speeder bike style right on the show here by leaving a comment. And General Micah Harrison did that, and he wrote, "I give this 7 Pedro Pascal faces. I truly enjoyed some of the throwbacks and seeing all the Easter eggs, but as an overall episode in comparison to the others, it was just a little less compelling to me. Still loving Mando, and of course being able to talk about it at 5 a.m. with Todd Knows Best and the rest of the 3 a.m. Patreon squad. This is the way." So we have a lot of night owls.
As soon as it goes up, there are people like, "Did you see this?"
That's great. I love that. All right, now speaking of did you see this, let's start talking about some Easter eggs that we spotted perhaps in this episode. No, Clayton, you have an article on GMA that you did that we can get into, but context is not important here. Basically anything that is a throwback or an Easter egg that caught your eye, or a reference, a quote or something that's a callback to. So let's go around. We'll go around the room one at a time here. Clayton, we'll start with you. A callback, a Easter egg, reference that you spotted in this chapter of The Mandalorian.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, there were so many of them, and I know we'll talk about them. But I mean, for me, it was when the Mandalorian walks into the Mos Eisley Cantina. I mean, that was just like, we have not seen inside of that place in 4 decades or so, and
right.
It was for me, that was the awesome part of it. But I will say, I think that part of my slightly lower score on this is that I was torn, because there were so many great Easter eggs and callbacks and references. There was just so much coming at you the entire episode. But at the same time, yeah, for me, it was the story didn't advance a heck of a lot in this chapter, but I thoroughly enjoyed all of the callbacks. In fact, I had to go back and look. I knew Filoni had directed the episode, but I didn't know that he had written it. So
right.
I was sort of curious to see who was behind this, whether it was Favreau or Filoni, and so I had to go back to the credits to see that. But yeah, so it was kind of torn. So many, but if I had to pick one Easter egg, it had to be walking into the cantina.
Okay. Well, we'll make it back around to you for a few more. Lacey, did you have an Easter egg you wanted to bring up?
On the same kind of path, the droid that's the bartender in Mos Eisley is the one from Jabba's palace. Well, similar droid. And that's personally one of my favorite scenes in Return of the Jedi, where R2 starts like copping sass, and he's just like, "You're a feisty one. I've got a job for you." And then he makes him a bar.
Yeah.
He's serving drinks.
Right.
So
like
You'll that
soon learn some respect.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
I saw him and I was like, "It's the feisty guy." I was like so excited. But also like, this isn't necessarily an Easter egg, but the bar being very empty was kind of like disarming for me.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, so empty." But then they say because the guild left, everybody probably left with it.
Yeah, no music, right? You didn't hear the tonal nodes. I'm sure there's a canon explanation of where those guys went in some comic book, but
right.
So mine's, it's been done in Star Wars before, but I have to say, in the beginning, right before the title came up, I pumped my fist at 6 a.m. because Maverick hit the brakes and he flew right by him, and he blew up that guy using the Top Gun, hit the brakes, the air brakes maneuver in space, which I know Luke had done in Endor, and I know it was done in Order 66 and that sort of thing, Revenge of the Sith. But to me, it's a Top Gun callback, and that's my headcanon. So I love that moment. He was about to get blown away. He's got little Yoda there with him, Tiny, whatever we want to call him. Hits it. The guy flies in front, locks him, blows him away. Loved it. Loved that part.
It was good.
How do we know Top Gun didn't get it from Return of the Jedi?
Dun, dun, dun.
That's a good question.
I love that you said that, and then we're
No,
like,
it's not. Yeah.
We're gonna have to call Jerry Bruckheimer and be like, dude, what's
Yeah.
the deal?
Jer.
Clayton, get the connections. Get that guy on the horn. All right, Clayton, do you have a few more you want to point out?
Well, yeah. So I liked how there were a lot of references from all aspects. Like you had original trilogy references, you had prequel references, you had even the Sabacc game was that Amy Sedaris' character is playing with the pit droids, who themselves are prequel reference. That Sabacc game from Solo. So it was cool how they kind of incorporated a lot of. They didn't just pick from one different.
Right.
Or from one area or one movie or one era. They kind of mixed them all together, which I thought was kind of fun. Just the fact that it was Tatooine was awesome. I mean, that shot, and I didn't mention this in the article, but I thought it. There is a shot as the ship is coming in over the planet, and there's even that sort of wispy cloud system that was in the original Ralph McQuarrie matte painting when they made the original film, which was so similar, and it was like a dead giveaway for Tatooine. It's like
Right.
it's like the red spot on Jupiter or whatever. It just kind of reminded me of that. So just having the chance to go back to Tatooine, which we haven't really seen since the closing shots of Revenge of the Sith, right? I mean, it's been a while.
right.
Unless you're counting, of course, Star Tours. You do get to go to Tatooine and Star Tours.
Right.
But it was cool because this is the, one of, if not the most iconic planet in all of the entire Star Wars galaxy. Tatooine, this is where it all began, right? So it was fun to go back there in that way, which was just awesome. And the docking bay looked exactly the same. It was laid out the same. It had the stairway where we saw R2 kind of hobbling down in the original film, and the style of numbers on the outside wall there was,
Right.
the attention to detail was fantastic. And Tatooine, big one.
That's huge. Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, when you were on the Resistance broadcast with us, you were talking about that volume room and how people didn't realize whether if it was real or fake.
Yeah.
I wonder if they recreated the docking bay room itself via the imagery from A New Hope almost. Because it looked
I'm sure.
so good.
Yeah, I'm sure it was inspired by it, and who knows? I know they have the original blueprints. Maybe they kind of blocked it out and look.
Right.
Oh, I will tell you on second viewing with my son tonight, I noticed there's a green screen that was not taken care of in the visual effects that pops up. This is if you rewatch the scene. Where Amy Sedaris, and her name is
Pelly or something.
Pelly Motto, I think, something like that. When the child, when Baby Yoda comes out of the back of the Mandalorian ship, when he's coming down the ramp of the Razor Crest, and she walks over and picks him up. If you watch it, maybe on a computer monitor, the lower left corner. You can see just a hint of a green screen that wasn't painted out that doesn't show up in subsequent shots, but it's back there if you look for it. There's just a little sliver of green screen.
Yeah.
Oh, George would be so mad.
I know. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
But,
so
nitpicking, but it was fun.
Did
to see
you
it.
notice? And I want to get to. I know Lacey always has a good list here, so
I'm crossing him off as he's going. He's getting him. He's good.
Clayton and Lacey, because you both love A New Hope. Did you notice that the shot of Mos Eisley from a distance looked verbatim
Yes.
the shot that they're overlooking on that mountain with Obi-Wan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was cool.
And the two moons as he's approaching the planet was verbatim the same shot of the Corvette flying over Tatooine too in the first shot almost of A New Hope.
That's
So
what I
the two-
yelled at this morning was the shot of overlooking. I just was like, Tatooine! Like, because
And I want to know if in some kind of special features or something later on, they're going to say, well, guess what? We used the original matte painting
Yes.
for that too,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. That'd be cool. But all right,
I was actually curious to go back and kind of compare them and see if they are the same, because
Oh,
it
that would be
wouldn't
cool.
shock me if they
Right.
did that.
Well,
Like-
since you have Disney Plus, you can.
Yeah.
Can check
Tell
it
these
out.
two apart, and you're just looking back and forth trying to find differences, and you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe some erosion on the mountain from Tatooine climate change. But anyway, Lacey, what else you got?
So I have the character Toro is basically like B Team Han Solo if I didn't like him. Like if Han Solo was a character I hated, it would be Toro. But like they have him sitting in the same seat in the same position of Han Solo. The way he pulls his gun is Han Solo. Like he's dressed like Han Solo. I was like, what is this?
Right.
What is going on? But yeah, no, a lot of Han Solo going on there.
I was looking for a blast mark in the wall, and I couldn't find it. Behind him,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
the McClunky, the
over
famous
pair.
McClunky shot.
The McClunky.
Right. No, I agree. When I saw him with his leg up, I was like, "How dare you? How dare you?"
I sit where he sat. Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah, that was a bold choice, though, to have
Right?
him in the same booth, in the same position,
Right.
feet up on the table. I mean, it was just like a knock you over the head kind of reference.
And I was
Right.
just like, can we not?
Right. And then he tells Mando to
Sacred
sit
ground.
where Greedo sat, and he's like, take a load off, and he's like, well, I don't know if you want to be sitting in that chair in that place. But I'm sure if you asked Harrison Ford, he'd be like, I don't care.
I don't care.
I'm going with a quote. Clayton, I know you pointed a few of these out, but
Okay.
one that really jumped out at me is when he said, she's no good to us dead.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Right out of Boba Fett's book to Vader. So very on the nose, but maybe it's just the style of how Mandos operate, and I got a kick out of that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a very good one.
Now, you had others that you had pointed out, I believe, right?
Yeah, I had when they were out in the desert trying to figure out what to do, and Toro's like, "What are we gonna do?" And he goes, "She's got the high ground.
Yeah.
She's got the high ground.
Yes.
We gotta wait. She's gonna wait for us because she's got the high ground." So that was a pretty obvious Obi-Wan and Anakin on in Revenge of the Sith reference. But yeah, I think those were the two main ones that stood out. The she's no good to us dead. I think there was a little fist pump when I heard that one.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. Lacey, any others?
Like quote wise, not necessarily,
just
but
anything.
like
Yeah.
mentions. They mention the Hutts. They mention the Republic again. Which again, every episode we hear about the Republic, it's how like incapable they are of doing what they need to do to get things going.
Right. Yeah.
And then a mention of Beggar's Canyon, which
Yeah,
is where
that was cool.
Luke and
And the Dune Sea,
the Dune Sea. Yep.
where old Ben was living out beyond it. I saw R5D4, what looked like R5D4, rolling up in
Yeah.
the Mos Eisley Cantina. Motivator intact, perhaps?
Did you catch that she was playing for a motivator?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I
then
did
we
see
see
that.
him in the next scene, and I was like, "Is that his?"
Ah, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I actually missed him the first time around, but I saw him the second time. That was cool.
Yeah.
And she said that Mando's ship had a lot of carbon scoring, which
Yep.
was R2D2's affliction.
Yeah.
In A New Hope. So a lot of like A New Hope Easter eggs
Yep.
from Tatooine on Tatooine again here.
Yeah.
Filoni was really going for the member berries from the original movie there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final ones? Any others standing out to you, Clayton, that you want to throw out there?
Not really in the Easter eggy category, but more just kind of big sort of tonal changes and things that seem to have evolved over time, which I thought were kind of fascinating. If you want to get into those.
Okay. We'll get into that in a minute when we just have a casual discussion about this thing. Lacey,
Yeah.
any final ones?
Well, we didn't really talk about. There are banthas, Tusken Raiders, a dewback, speeder bikes, and a gonk droid.
Yep.
Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, my son noticed the gonk droid right away.
Yeah.
Yes. It's always
That
fun
was
seeing
cool.
a gonk droid because you know there's a person in there just bopping around.
It's just knocking around.
That's it.
And
That's
it's about
it for my list.
It's about 120 degrees inside.
Exactly, yeah. Unless they were in that Manhattan Beach studio in a nice 68-degree situation.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a tweet here from Darth Glucosa, who said Chapter 5 was the biggest Easter eggy fan servicey episode of The Mandalorian so far. All starting with a very familiar space shot. Great episode as well. Way to go, Filoni. So you have someone there saying, way to go, Filoni, as opposed to Filoni.
Would you say it was a Suga episode?
A Suga episode.
Suga. The egg, Jawa. Come on, guys. It was only 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. No, I forgot that's what they said when they had the egg. Yes.
Suga.
It was a very Suga episode. By the way, did you guys see someone posted that shot of C-3PO dumping the Jawa bodies onto the fire from A New Hope?
Yes.
I retweeted that with like the shocked face because R2's sitting there like, ooh, hoo, hoo.
Right. Like he's warming his hands by the fire.
Warming himself. Yeah.
People are like, well, 3PO is really going to get into it in episode 9. Then they just show him dumping bodies onto fires in the very first Star Wars movie. Like, he's been there. He's seen a thing or two. Okay. So a spoiler breakdown of the episode. Let's have a chat about it in general. Like you're saying, stories, moments, and things like that. But to get warmed up, Clayton, did you have a favorite shot in this episode? Something that stood out to you that...
I really enjoyed the opening sort of dogfight, chase, I guess it was, because it was sort of the first time that in a Star Wars series that we saw a battle, happening in the stars, which was fun.
True.
A lot of cool maneuvering, and the Razor Crest, that thing's got some moves.
It does.
It's kind of a clunky looking ship design as Star Wars ships go, but it was diving and twirling and doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
I like that whole sequence, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump on and say I agree with you. From like moment 1 when people have been talking about, it's been the slow, too westerny and stuff, and then right out of the gate, it's the 2 speeders or starships blasting at each other and that sort of thing. I got like kind of Attack of the Clones vibes with the Obi-Wan and Jango Fett chase.
Oh, yeah.
So I dug that, and like you say, it's in a TV series, and it still felt big, and it felt Star Wars. So, and unfortunately for me, that was my favorite part of the episode, I think. But I liked it kicking off out of the gate, even before the titles came up. That's what we saw. So I thought that was cool.
And they even had an Easter egg back to the first episode of The Mandalorian with the "That's my line."
Yeah.
Oh,
at the end.
yes, warmer.
That's
cold,
how
right?
heavy Easter eggy this show was.
right.
Suga.
Yeah. Right. You're really trying to make that a thing.
No, I just like that they say it. I think it's so funny. That was the best part of that episode.
Was that your favorite shot of that episode?
Them saying Suga? Yeah, kind of.
What was your favorite shot from this episode?
So I loved the beginning like you guys did, but I also love the part where Baby Yoda comes down the ramp.
Yes.
Which I think is CG. Now, I know a lot of it's puppet, but I think that shot was very CG. It looked very CG to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Favreau recently, in the 5 billion articles that have been coming out for Star Wars this past week, said they did do CG for some stuff, but they tried to only limit it to how a puppet would be able to operate. So unlike Yoda flipping around in Attack of the Clones, it would still have to move slowly and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the puppet's eyes are always open, is what I've heard, and that they use CG to make it blink and stuff. But, that was it was such a fun shot because you have Amy Sedaris' character being like, oh my God, I'm going to kill whatever's coming out of this. And here comes this little thing, just like, hey.
Right. Well, anytime in Star Wars you see that ramp lower, it's always Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, stormtroopers or something.
Something bad, yeah.
Yeah, or Han and Luke saying, hey, can you give us a hand with this? And then you blow them away. But this time it was just little 6-pound, 8-ounce baby.
Sweet baby Yoda.
Which they're officially calling the child on merchandise, I guess.
Yes.
Which is funny that they're calling it the child, but yet Mando can't realize that he can't leave it alone.
Yeah, true.
Dude's
But he
got to
has
get that memo together. He's just missing it every episode.
He has no problem just being like, "Hey, person, I just met you 6 minutes ago. Can you watch this really prized child?" Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's just get into it then. Clayton, why don't you start us off about this episode, your overall vibe, story, and that whole deal?
Sorry, I was distracted by Lacey's cup, which is like 3 times the size of her head.
That's her motif. Yes. Usually it's a barrel.
Yeah. Sorry.
I have
what was
one.
the question? Yeah. I have that one.
Yeah.
No, just your overall thoughts on this episode in general, story arc, character angles, new characters, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was still doesn't live up to all of the great turning points and action of episode 3 or chapter 3, but I still liked it, even though it didn't advance things much. I really liked Fennec Shand, and I am hoping, and I want to know what you guys think too. I mean, I can't imagine she'd be gone already. Hopefully not.
Mm-hmm.
But she seemed to be, laying in that same position for quite a while. As the suns went back down again.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of reserve judgment on it until we see what her actual fate was. I do think it would be I think it would be a huge waste of talent and character for that character to be gone already. But no, I liked it. Baby Yoda kind of takes a back seat in this one. Which I thought was fine. I mean, he had his until he speaks or does something else. I mean, there's only so much cooing, you can get out of him with it. Right. I loved it. I loved Amy Sedaris. That was sort of a surprise. It took me a second with the wig, like I knew.
And no eyebrows. I was like, "What? Who is this person?"
Yeah. Instantly, yeah, the voice, it was like, well, wait a minute, who is this? Oh, yeah. And then when it clicked, it was like, oh, that's cool. And kind of a neat, you saw Horatio Sands, you saw sort of a comic in episode 1, or chapter 1, which is also a Filoni episode. So it's kind of cool. He's like, seems to be dipping into the comedy, sketch comedy world a little bit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
To round out his characters, fill some of these roles, which I thought was kind of cool. I love the overall mix of eras and stories. And 2 things stood out to me in this episode that kind of showed a little bit, and I don't know if it's necessarily a PC thing or what, but it certainly shows some sort of evolution in the Star Wars world and the Star Wars galaxy, and that is when the Mandalorian walks into the Mos Eisley Cantina. What struck me immediately is that there are, like you said, there's no music, there's a lot fewer people in there, but there are now droids everywhere. Right. So the place that banned droids, that kicked C-3PO and R2-D2 out into the street.
Right.
We don't serve their kind here. All these years later seems to have had some sort of revelation. Maybe there was a galactic law passed or something. I don't know.
Right.
Some sort of equal access law. But now you have droids in the cantina, which struck me as being very different.
L3's efforts didn't die in vain.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Droid rights. All the way. Yeah. Which I thought was a really interesting sort of change. Although, and then I thought, well, in Oga's Cantina in Galaxy's Edge, I mean, there is a droid DJ, so
right.
It's just a different world nowadays, guys. It's just different. It's more enlightened and droid friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think more significantly, the one that stood out to me was. The other scene that stood out to me is when Toro and the Mandalorian run across a couple of Tusken Raiders, which I thought was great. I thought the way that scene was shot and the sort of surprise out of it was cool when he's sort of talking smack about him and they're standing right behind him and he doesn't know it, which I thought was great. But there was definitely a message in there that this is not your 1977 Star Wars.
Right.
This was, they are Sand People, Tusken Raiders, clearly an analog to Native Americans in that setting. And, they were sort of purely evil bad guys back in 1977. And now the Mandalorian is showing them much more respect. He has a line in there about how he says the Tuskens think they're the locals. Everyone else is just trespassing.
Right.
And he takes the time to not just blast them into the sand, but takes this time to do something which I don't think we've ever seen before, which is sort of a sign language version or a version of sign language in the Star Wars world.
Right.
But takes the time and shows them the respect to negotiate safe passage from one spot to another, which really stood out to me as a big difference. I mean, in 1977, he just would have pulled out his blasters and his explosives.
Or wear a
fair.
robe and go like this.
Or wear yeah.
Yeah,
which
make a
I
great
thought
dragon
was
sound, yeah.
yeah, which I thought was a really interesting choice that they went about it like that. But I suppose that's just a sign of the times.
And a sign of theatrics from Sand People in that they stayed quiet enough right next to him for him to talk smack
Right.
instead of just immediately going
Yeah, grabbing the stick and beating
like-
in them into the sand.
they're like,
yeah.
no, let's sneak up on him and really
Yeah.
stick it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Lacey, you gave this thing an 8, so you dug it. What that's low on your scale, but overall
It's
thoughts
low
on the
on
episode?
my scale.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed all the references. I'm a huge A New Hope fan. Similar to what people have been saying online, I see this as kind of like a filler episode, which I know some people don't like, but the way I'm saying it is when you read a comic series or watch any other show that has like 24 episodes in a season, every once in a while you get an episode that doesn't necessarily move the overall plot forward, but gives you a fun episode to watch. So if you miss it, you don't miss any big plot points, but you don't have to watch it to get the rest of the season. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a ton of those where nothing big happens, but she goes and fights someone or defeats some monster, and then that's the end, and then they move forward. I felt that, like episode 2, this is one of those episodes that, like, if you missed it, yeah, you missed a lot of fun, and you missed cool references as a Star Wars fan, but I don't think you necessarily missed anything. The only little piece that I'm like, maybe, is the end, where you see someone's feet. And I don't think that she's dead, Clayton. I think that if she was dead, they would have showed her face like they did with, like, Snoke, where his tongue's out of his mouth, like, Like, the fact that they have her facing... First of all, he shoots her super low. They never show the wound, and then they have her facing away from the camera, and they never show her face.
And
which
he's
is
kind
like,
of a total noob, too.
Right, but the other thing is, like, these little tips and tricks are things in movies that usually the person survives. If they're shot low in the stomach, if they're facing away from the camera, you don't actually see them bleed or anything. Like, they're usually fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Or-
but
or-
I also thought I also thought that they've already done that gag with Grief Karga.
Yes, they have.
Getting blasted with the hit in the Beskar
The Old
bricks
West,
that he was carrying.
But
Yeah,
I
sort of
wonder
a-
if all these people that he's wronged are going to end up getting together by the end of the season to team up to kind of kill him.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if they all are like, oh, he shot you, he shot me too, let's go get him. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was thinking about this episode, and I've watched it twice now, and everything that stands out to me are like the Easter eggs and the nostalgia callbacks and all that sort of thing. And that's not enough for me to love an episode like long term. Like it's like going on a Disney ride and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, that's cool. But then you're like, I'm not gonna go ride pirates again. Like I know what's gonna happen. So. But I like the music more. That's starting to grow on me
Yes.
a lot.
loved the music.
I'm like starting to like Clayton. You had said a few episodes ago when you were on with us that
Yeah.
you started humming it and you didn't realize that's starting to happen to me too now. His main theme, the da-dong, that whole thing. So I'm really starting to let the music meld in and not have it stick out in my head. So it's becoming part of the show, like melding in. That the episode itself, though, it's again, his ship is damaged. He needs to go make money to get it fixed. That's chapter 2. That's what happened. He had to go get the egg and get his parts back and fix his ship. The only difference is, the Ugnaught wasn't there to help him put it back together. It was Amy Sedaris' character. So yeah, it didn't do a lot. And I think what is concerning people is that it's only 8 episodes, and people are still very shocked that these are like 28, 29 minutes long. So we have 90 minutes left of The Mandalorian Season 1, and people really want to see something happen here.
Like episode 3. Episode 3 was good from beginning to end, where you felt like you got something out of it. You left that episode being like, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're 5/8 in, and we only have one Cara Dune episode. Grief Karga's been peppered in here and there. Werner Herzog had his spot. What's the deal with this Dr. Pershing guy? What's the purpose of Baby Yoda? I feel like we're getting to the end real quick here. So I wonder if these next 3 episodes are going to be like a loaded trilogy to back end the season or what. I'll wait to find out. But this episode
they'll each be 3 hours long. Yes.
Hey, let's do it. Yeah,
we'll take it. Yeah,
we'll take it. But yeah, it left me a little flat, and I'm not a directing expert, but I feel like some of Filoni's shooting was a little like wobbly and almost like a person's point of view in a weird sort of way. Shaky cam when the 3 of them were kind of fighting in the darkness there. But that end shot, the cliffhanger, I try to put my brightness up, and you see boots, you see a cape, you see a gun holster. Like, is that Giancarlo Esposito's character finally? Is that another Mandalorian? Is it Grief Karga? Like, do you guys have guesses on who you think that is?
I mean, my buddy Ryan Parker today wrote an article for The Hollywood Reporter suggesting it might be Boba Fett.
What?
I don't know that I buy that one.
That's crazy.
Oh my god!
I don't know that I buy that one. But yeah, my guess is it's Esposito's character.
That's who I thought it was.
But
that was my assumption anyway.
Did he have a cape in the trailers? Do we recall?
I think he has a black.
Don't
cape.
they all?
I'm
I
sure
guess you're right. Yeah,
black cape.
Maybe it's Lando.
No. Maybe. I did want to just Phil Sostak. If you don't follow him, he's with the Lucasfilm art department, and he put out a couple of tweets earlier today, which I thought sort of addressed this point. He says, I really don't get the recent uptick in denigrating certain TV episodes as filler. Not every chapter of a story needs to advance the overarching plot, and quieter episodes which enrich your understanding and love of the characters and worlds make the louder ones, he says, that much more impactful. And I think he has a point.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with that. I just don't... I'm trying to think of what happened in this episode for the Mandalorian himself that made me look at him differently.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's a nitpick. Again, we're talking about... however mmany hours of news, 4 hours of new Star Wars content we're getting here. It's not all going to be high octane action packed. We're going to need, to kind of go up and down with ebbs and flows, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, I gave it a 6.5, but I still really enjoyed it. It's still Star Wars to me. So it's a 6.5 in Star Wars, which if I put it up against something else, it'd be up here. So.
I just had a thought, on the Western trope theme. It occurred to me that the relationship with between the Mandalorian and Toro sort of reminded me of that Clint Eastwood movie Unforgiven, where he was sort of the gruffle, and then he had the other the young gunslinger, and God, it's been forever since I've seen that movie, but who talked a tough talk, but couldn't see, right? Wasn't that the plot of that film? Like he had vision problems, so he couldn't shoot straight.
Right.
And the Clint Eastwood character kind of had to take him under his wing and show him what was what. But that's kind of what that relationship reminded me of.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like each episode they're kind of doing some kind of throwback to a certain movie or series or something like that. I'm actually looking up Unforgiven right now. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes for Unforgiven, so check that out if you haven't yet. Yeah.
But how many Pedros?
Yeah, right. That'd be 9.5 Pedros, which would be
Pedros.
low on Lacey's scale, but still good. Still good.
I've really messed up my scale starting with episode 1. I was just really excited for it to be a Star Wars TV show. Maybe season 2 I'll be more realistic.
You're gonna come out of the gate giving it 5s in season 2 just to start. Yeah.
Start low.
All right. So one of our patrons, Chris, said, "Can you please answer this question on the show?" And he brings up a good point. So I want to see what your guys' take is on this. He said, "Do we think that Baby Yoda will speak like Yoda, or will he speak basic like the Mandalorian because of phonetics, syntax, and semantics of the culture he's now being raised in?"
That's a tough one because we don't know what he's been exposed to the previous 50 years of his life.
Right.
So yeah, that's a really really good. Honestly, I think it could go either way, but it would be kind of it'd be kind of cute to hear him speak in that weird backwards Yoda kind of way.
Talk,
you know.
Right. Lacey, what do you think?
I'm going to say the Yoda way because that's what I want.
Yeah,
that's what seems to make sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And Clayton, we on the podcast we've talked about this, and I want to see what you think. Some people are thinking he may be playing a little possum here, and he may be a bit more advanced than he's leading on, and he's kind of testing the Mandalorian a little bit like Yoda did at the beginning of their interaction in Empire, like flipping the switches, testing his patience, and that sort of thing. Do you think anything's there, or do you think we're just looking at what we see?
Interesting. Yeah, well, he did seem to move and get out of the way fairly quickly in that final shootout there back in Docking Bay 35. Like, I thought it was an interesting kind of, they made a point to like, well, where did he go?
And he's like...
Yeah, and he had made a run for it to protect himself, which seemed kind of a weird point to make. Like the where did he go? Like he should have been just right there. So possibly, yeah, maybe he's got some skills that we just don't know about yet.
All right, very good. Okay, now we're gonna look ahead briefly to Chapter 6 before we close it out. But I do need to give away the Mando code for this week. So if you've been watching or listening, you learned about the Mando code a couple of weeks ago, where we're revealing one number out of 6, one number each episode until the end and until the finale. And when we reveal the final number, we will give instructions on what you can do to enter to win the bounty. Now, the bounty is a Black Series Boba Fett premium electronic helmet. So I hope you kept paying attention and you've gotten the first 2 numbers, because the third number is coming at you right now. This week's number in the Mando code is 7. So you have 3 numbers out of 6. Once you get all 6 numbers, you'll get instructions on what you need to do, and you may be able to win that sweet Boba Fett helmet. So, all right, guys, looking ahead to Chapter 6.
Am I eligible for that, by the way?
Yeah, you can win that.
You
code.
actually are.
Yeah. Just you'll have to hang it right behind you.
Yes, exactly.
Right below that lightsaber, and that'll be your update.
My Death Trooper helmet. Yes, exactly.
There you go. Yeah. Perfect.
Yes.
We are supposed to see a couple of those guys, I think, in Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think we saw them.
Yeah, we've seen them in some stills, I think, or something. Anyway.
Speaking of which, looking ahead briefly to Chapter 6, Clayton, do you think we're getting Giancarlo Esposito? Where do you think Rick Famuyiwa is taking us in this next one?
Yeah, I think where we've seen in the last couple of episodes kind of these random bounty hunters coming out of the woodwork to try and get these 2. I think now you're going to see in the next episode maybe a higher level, more organized sort of full court press from another Imperial type with a lot of troops behind him to really kind of step this search up, because we haven't really gotten into it, but there is some reason that the client and Pershing want this creature. So we don't know what that is yet, but the stakes are clearly very high, and they're going to do whatever they can to get him back. So I think in the background of these kind of random bounty hunters that we've run into, there's been some effort building to create an organized force to really show up, and probably this is leading to some giant final confrontation. But I think we're going to start to see the beginnings of that effort show up soon.
I like that. And then maybe you get all the people Mando's met along the way come in to help him, sort of thing.
Perhaps,
like you get Cara Dune show up, Ognolte, IG-11 maybe with a new head. Who knows? Little Avengers at the end of Mandalorian or something like that.
There you go. Yeah.
Lacey, where are we going in Chapter 6? What's going on?
Well, I think, playing off what Clayton said, you've got the Empire people that are looking for him, like those bad guys. But then you also have all the bounty hunters looking for him on the other side that they feel betrayed. So you now have two dangerous groups looking for him. So they're all going to probably converge at one point towards the end of the season, which we're getting towards that. But I think we're going to get Giancarlo Esposito in the next episode.
Nice.
Because we have to introduce him at some point, and I feel like he's one of those characters that will carry through the next three.
Nice. And maybe your boy Bill Burr.
Where's Bill Burr? I've been waiting.
Oh, yeah,
Bill Burr.
yeah.
I've been waiting my whole life for this.
He's the one that's shooting the blaster rapidly, right? In one of the trailers.
With like the 1980s.
Yeah, the two.
Like,
yeah.
Predator style on the shoulder.
Yes. Right. Yep.
I'm hoping we see more of Werner Herzog, because my favorite line in the season so far is when they bring little Yoda in and he goes, yes, 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 yes. I don't know why. I just thought that was so great. Anyway,
everything he says is so precise, too.
I could listen to that guy just read me a story and I'd be enthralled no matter what it was. It could be instructions on how to fix a lawnmower and I'd be like, all right.
Put together an IKEA shelf.
There you go.
Like, first you get the Allen wrench.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You can't have enough of those. Oh, boy. All right. So that's pretty much it. So we are looking ahead to Chapter 6 1 week from today. So, Clayton, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, rearranging your schedule.
Biggest Clayton fan. Woo!
Pushing dinner back an hour, all that good stuff. As always, where can people find your article about this chapter, and where can people annoy you on social media?
Yeah, well, I tweeted it out today, so my Twitter handle is Clayton_Sandell. And then you can, if you go to abcnews.com and just search Mandalorian, I'm sure it would pop up. But yeah, those two places.
Excellent. Lacey, as always, everyone already knows, but where can they find you?
People can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lacey Gilleran.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. Although I'm disappointed Clayton has not worn a Kylo Ren cosplay outfit yet.
No, I'm woefully short on
my birthday's
Kylo
in
Ren's
February, so if you want to.
Okay. Very good. I will do my best.
Right.
I got to see what the new costume is though from the new film, because they change every film.
Yeah,
right.
With the red.
Yeah,
you have to change it slightly to sell more action figures.
Right.
As always.
Yes.
Right.
Subtly. But not enough to redo the action figure. They still need that mold. So just slight, like a paint variant.
Exactly.
That's true. Hasbro's got to pinch those pennies. All right, guys. You guys make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You can find me, Lacey, sometimes Clayton, and always James on the Resistance broadcast on Mondays and Thursdays. If you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/Resistance broadcast if you're not sick of us 3 times a week as it is. I do want to thank our generals over there. That is Carmelo, Brian Shalito, Andrew Staley, Neil Lowry, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, JG Carr, Seth Kime, Micah Harrison, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you. You guys are the reason why this video happens. It takes a lot of time out of our day to make this stuff, so we appreciate all of your support. Next Friday, we will be joined by Nick from the band Bayside. He's a huge Star Wars fan, so we're very excited to have him join us to talk about Chapter 6. So thanks for watching, listening, being Mando Fandos with us here on the Mando Fan Show, and we'll see you next Friday to talk more Mandalorian. See you around, kids.